Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/MaliciousCompliance. In today's episode, car dealer tells me I should waste my time and go to a competing dealer because they also won't give me the price they list on their website. You're going to school me? Please do so. Won't give me the promotion you promised, okay. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Car dealer tells me I should waste my time and go to a competing dealer because they also won't give me the price they list on their website. This is a rather long, detailed story, so if you're the impatient sort, please skip to the bottom, though note you're missing out on fun details. This took place 8 years ago when I was buying my first new car, not just a new-to-me car. I spent a good amount of time researching the options available, both in terms of other models from other manufacturers and option packages on the car in which I was most interested, so I knew exactly what I wanted coming in the door. In 2014, car dealer websites hadn't quite gotten to the level of borderline bait-and-switch trickery you see these days, so if a dealer's website said they had a particular car on the lot at a particular price, they almost certainly did. There were several in the region that matched what I was looking for, one specifically at my existing dealership. This wasn't a smaller dealership, it was one of the largest in the Northern Virginia area for this particular brand. I had had a reasonably good experience with their service department overall and figured I'd give their sales department a chance to shine. That was my first mistake. I showed up on a Wednesday after work. It was early June, so with the mercury being in the upper 90s, I was dressed in a comfortable, but still very presentable combination of a polo shirt and khaki shorts. When I entered the sales side of the dealership, I could see what appeared to be all the salespeople in a conference room laughing and joking while taking scissors to the tie of one of the men present. Later, I found out that was a rite of passage after making your first sale. I waited around for a minute or two as the conference room had glass walls and it would be impossible not to notice me, as I'm not exactly a small fellow at 6 feet, 6 inches tall. When no one came out to greet me, I went up to the receptionist's desk and said, "Hi, I'm interested in model of car, and there's one in stock I'd like to see." Her response, without even looking up from her phone, was okay. I stood there for another 20 seconds or so and then politely asked, "Would someone be able to show me that car?" This finally prompted her to look up from her phone. She looked me up and down, scoffed a bit, and said she'd go and get someone. I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, hoping that things would turn around. That was my second mistake. The receptionist came back with what looked like the youngest, most wet behind the ears salesperson she could find, as evidently I wasn't worth the time of the more experienced folks. I explained that I was interested in a car that their website said they had in stock and provided him with the printout, showing the stock number, price, and all other pertinent details. It took him a while to find the car on the lot, but after a brief test drive I knew it was what I wanted and began the sales process. I had a trade-in, which had been primarily serviced by them and for which I already had a written offer from CarMax, so I knew how much I should receive for it. He quoted me just over half of that figure. When I pointed out that I could get several thousand more by taking it to the CarMax just up the road and had a written offer from them for that specific amount, he went and got his sales manager, who offered to drive me there and pick me up afterwards, but that they wouldn't match what CarMax offered. I was a bit surprised that they didn't want a nice used car to sell for themselves, 6 years old, top of the line, reasonable mileage, and serviced by them specifically, but again, cut them more slack than they deserved. When we got to price, things really fell apart. He quoted me a price that was several $1,000s higher than what they displayed on their website. When I showed him the printout again with the noticeably lower price, he looked to the sales manager for guidance. The sales manager immediately took the line that the price listed includes all available rebates and special offers, and you may not qualify for all of them. I was now frustrated and showed them printouts from the other dealers in the area that had a similar price shown and said that if they weren't willing to honor the price listed on their website, I'd just go to the next closest dealer that had that model in stock at that price. His response sealed the deal for me. Go ahead, waste your time and go to competing dealership. We won't hold it against you when you come back here. I told them okay, thank you for your time. I'll go to competing dealership and got up to leave. No one stopped me and the receptionist said nothing as I walked past her out to the parking lot to drive to the other dealership. When I got to the competing dealership, it was already around 8 p.m. as I had spent a fair amount of time at the first dealership in Northern Virginia. Traffic has never been known for being reasonable. I had a salesperson approach me immediately upon entering the dealership and I explained I've just come from first dealership and want to buy particular model of car. Both of you have that car in stock with the options I want. They wouldn't give it to me at the price shown on their website. If you will, I'm ready to sign on the dotted line right now. The salesperson immediately took me to his office, verified that they had the car and confirmed that yes, the price on their website was accurate and I could walk out the door with that price. We started the process and when we got to the trade-in, I further explained how the other dealership tried to lowball me on the trade. He said if I could produce a written offer from CarMax for the price I mentioned, they would match it. I gave him that paperwork and without any further discussion he agreed they would match that, and we moved on to financing. I hadn't gotten this far with the other dealer, but I had already lined up financing through my credit union. He asked if I'd be willing to see if his F&I guy could match or beat that figure. I agreed to let him try and he came back with a rate that was 50 bps lower. Needless to say, I was already very happy with these people, but that definitely sealed the deal. Right as I was finishing the paperwork, the salesperson from the first dealer texted me to ask if they would give me the car at that price. I responded back that they would and I was finishing up the paperwork at that very moment. He immediately tried to call me, then texted me saying he'd give it to me for $500 less. I responded to his text stating that I'd already signed the paperwork and he had lost the sale. Once the paperwork was complete, the exceptionally pleasant and helpful salesperson at my new dealership spent an additional half hour after the dealership had closed for the night running me through some of the features of the car and showing me how the infotainment system worked. This was completely above and beyond what I expected, as I thought I'd just be reading the 300-page user manual to figure it out on my own. I drove home that night with my shiny new car, a very happy camper. The next day, I decided to rub a little salt in the wounds of the first dealership, so I drove there straight from the office. For context, I work in the banking industry, and at that point it was still very much business formal dress. I showed up in my suit with my briefcase and had people falling all over themselves trying to help me, including the receptionist who clearly remembered who I was midway through me asking for the particular salesperson I dealt with the prior day. She offered me a seat and asked if I wanted some coffee while she went to get him, and I politely said no, thank you. I won't be here long. She somewhat quietly/sheepishly responded that she'd be back with that salesperson very shortly. There was a couple in the waiting area who seemed a bit displeased that they'd been waiting for a salesperson, but I got one the moment I walked in the door. No more than a minute later, the salesperson and his manager came out. The salesperson recognized me and with a look of defeat on his face shook my hand and asked how I was today. Before I had a chance to respond, the sales manager spoke up to introduce himself as if I hadn't spent an hour and a half with him the previous day. After I reminded him that I was there yesterday, and he had said it would be a waste of time to go the competing dealer because they'd never give me the car I wanted at the price shown on their website, his demeanor very quickly pivoted back to the snotty, insolent person I dealt with the previous day. He proceeded to ask, "Well, did they?" with a bit of a sneer. I said nothing but turned to the side and clicked the remote for my new car so the horn would give a few chirps. He said "good for you" in a rather curt tone and walked away, leaving the poor salesperson on his own. I shook that salesperson's hand, thanked him for his time, and turned around to leave. The receptionist spoke up as I walked past her and asked in a rather chipper voice if I needed any further assistance. I politely responded that no, the other dealership had provided me exactly what I needed and I was all set. To make things just that little bit better, as I passed the couple sitting in the waiting area, I saw them exchange looks with each other that seemed to say perhaps we should go to the dealer I mentioned. I said nothing further and walked out of the building wearing the smile of a winner. You're going to school me? Please do so. Okay, so I'm born and raised in the US and have always had a fascination with Ireland. I do have Irish ancestry, but my family has never been one to be vocal about it. We didn't do the stereotypical Irish American St. Patrick's Day stuff, hang Irish flags, or put Irish blessings on the wall. I guess I got my love for Ireland looking through books. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents when I was younger, and they had a set of books about different countries. I would spend all day looking through the one on Ireland. The gorgeous landscapes, the stone walls, the cottages, it all fascinated me. When I was around 4, my grandparents, knowing my fascination with Ireland, gave me an illustrated book of Irish legends as a birthday gift, and it quickly became my favorite book of all. I would always ask them to read me stories from it, and my favorite was the story of Tir na Nog. As I got older, my interest in Irish history and culture never waned, and I was determined to make it over there one day, and I'm happy to say I have accomplished that goal many times over now. Many of my friends there are like family to me, and we keep in close contact. Now, this was over a decade ago, but one weekend a friend and I were just grabbing some lunch and drinks at a local pub, and he was asking me about places to see in Ireland because I had just gotten back from there the previous week. I named a few spots, and this guy on the other side of me who was old enough to be my dad decides to butt in. Have you even been to Ireland? Said with a tone that suggests I have no business giving my friend advice on the subject. Me, yes. How many times? Once. Me, twice. Oh. Throws up his hands in mock surprise. Why don't we sit at one of the tables here, and I can school you on Ireland? I smile, and happily comply by getting down from my bar stool and sitting in a chair at the low table behind us. As he walks over to the table, I say as Gaelge, Cert? In Irish, right? He looks at me like I've got 3 heads. I decide to start throwing some of his own shade back at him and say it more slowly, as the Gaelge, Cert? Now, one of the things that I did before my first trip was take Irish language classes at our local Irish Cultural Center. The classes were taught by a woman who was a native speaker from Connemara. I had also made a lot of friends with native speakers from West Kerry and Galway from my trips there, and they helped me with my Irish. He still stands there clueless, so with casual sarcasm I say, "Oh, I figured that since you were about to school me on Ireland, it would only be fitting that we have the conversation in Irish. Certainly an expert such as yourself would have no trouble with that." The look of defeat on his face was priceless. The condescending attitude quickly disappeared like the air escaping a deflating balloon. His shoulders drooped, and he hung his head as he walked away without saying a word. My friend laughed his ass off, and we went back to our conversation. I've made 5 more trips to Ireland in the years since then, and the only disappointing part of any of it is not being able to stay longer. Edit, for the commenter saying I was rude, or that this guy was just wanting to talk about Ireland, please stop. In the US, when somebody says they are going to school you on something, this means they are going to make you look like a fool. They're saying I'm way more knowledgeable / better than you at, enter topic, and I'm going to prove it to you. It's a very disrespectful thing to say to somebody, especially a total stranger in a conversation that doesn't involve you and you are choosing to butt in on. I never start fights, but if you bite me, I will bite back. Also, if you're upset by the fact that I decided to give it back to him, you're probably the type of person that craps on people and expects to be treated with nothing but respect in return. Don't dish it if you can't take it. Edit number 2. For those of you who are thinking about trying to correct me and telling me the name of the language is Gaelic and not Irish, please look at the comments by the other idiots that have said this and have been corrected by not only me, but also multiple Irish people in the comments. Won't give me the promotion you promised, okay. This was years ago. I had a young manager, only 1 year older than me, and he was very approachable. After working together for many years, I was meeting every criteria for promotion, along with several others on my team with more experience than me. There was a company-wide promotion freeze while they restructured, but after, there was a bow wave of applicants, obviously. My manager was honest and told me others deserved it more than me, which I completely agreed with, but he did promise to get me the same money as they to acknowledge the work I do. Well, he lied. They got 10% raises and were on slightly more than me. I got 1.75%. I told him I was working to rule and did. My position meant I needed approval for everything I did, so I stalled everything waiting on a senior's review and approval. I stopped training every new person, graduate or more senior, but new staff. I always did this before, so this meant more time spent by others doing this. Even in meetings, I shouldn't have been making decisions, so I stopped. I took notes, then had to ask for other people to approve or reject every little detail, which I was plenty knowledgeable in. He complained many times, but I refused to work above my pay. Things ground to an almost complete stop on every task I was working on, much to his displeasure. Yet it wasn't anything he could complain about, since I was doing more than I should have in the first place. I told him what to do if he wanted me to help like I did before. He assured me he would. Another year goes by with no promotion and me doing nothing above my job description. By this point, her is sour and hesitant to give me new tasks, but I just bide my time. I knew something was coming. A job comes up internally that suits me to a T. Even others on my team wouldn't fit it like I did. It was also 2 positions higher than my current role. I apply and get the job in record time. Suddenly he had my promotion sorted, more money than my colleagues, but I was done and handed him my notice. He managed to negotiate a staggered transition, but paying my new 35% raise salary for my time. Biding my time never felt sweeter in those 3 months. Now sit at the same level as him, watching him seethe in every meeting we attend together. It makes me very happy every time I see his look of annoyance aimed at me. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.